This is Indian Country Today.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Trahant. Here are the headlines from Indian Country Today. President Joe Biden's administration is making appointments that include Native American attorneys. Robert Anderson and Anne Marie Bledsoe Downs will be two of the top attorneys for the Interior Department in the Office of the Solicitor. Anderson is from the Bois Forte Band of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. He will be the principal deputy solicitor. Bledsoe Downs is from the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska. She will serve as deputy solicitor for Indian Affairs. The solicitor's office has more than 430 attorneys and support staff who provide advice and legal services to the department's leadership, including the Interior Secretary. That position is expected to go to New Mexico Representative Deb Haaland. Her confirmation hearings are expected to start next month. From soldiers to dancers, Native Americans were a part of the virtual Parade Across America to celebrate the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Every state and territory was represented in the video, including the nation's first all-female Native American color guard, the Native American Women Warrior Association. Representing Wyoming, the Wind River Dancers sang a song, and in Hawaii, a traditional chant was given by Native Hawaiians with a message of unity and new beginnings. Towards the end of the parade, there was a segment called Dancing in the Streets, and there the Phoenix-based group Indigenous Enterprise could be seen dancing. A Cheyenne River Sioux woman is out of prison thanks to a pardon by former President Donald Trump. LaVon Roach was one of the last inmates to receive a pardon. She had served 23 years out of a 30-year sentence for a nonviolent drug-related offense. Before she died, her mother had pleaded for her release.
I'm here on behalf of my daughter, LaVon Roach, who's been in prison for a nonviolent drug charge for 18 years. I remember when we went to court and the judge sentenced her, and I remember thinking to myself, and that thought stays with me up to this day, is that they buried my daughter alive.
She had 3 children when she went to prison. Now she's coming home to 11 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. In granting her clemency, the White House statement noted she has a clean prison record and was helpful in tutoring and mentoring other inmates. She was one of 73 inmates who were pardoned by the outgoing president. Last year, he pardoned Crystal Munoz, a Navajo woman serving time for marijuana charges. She had spent 12 years in prison. The Aleut community of St. Paul in Alaska is trying to put themselves on the map. St. Paul is an island off the west coast of Alaska. The Aleut community there just received an Economic Development Administration STEM grant. This is a highly competitive award. Only 7 are given out nationwide. The training is designed to prepare community members for jobs. Some of those are drone pilots, private commercial, small aircraft, fuel handler, and hazmat training and tribal management degrees. Training is set to start next fall in 2021. A future U.S. Navy ship will be named USNS Muskogee Creek Nation to honor the tribe located in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. They announced the name during the ceremony at the First Americans Museum in Oklahoma City recently. The Muskogee people are descendants of not just one tribe, but a union of several. Muskogee Creek Nation is the largest of the federally recognized Muskogee tribes, which is the 4th largest tribe in the U.S. with more than 86,000 citizens, some of which have or continue to serve across the United States Armed Forces. The ship that will be named is used to tow, salvage, and rescue on the high seas. This will be the first Navy vessel to carry the name of the Muskogee Creek Nation. And those are the headlines from Indian Country Today. I'm Mark Trahant. We'll be right back.
This is Indian Country Today.
This is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, an issue that severely impacts Indian country. Indigenous people are at a higher risk of human trafficking, according to the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. But one nonprofit is dedicated to helping others who are coming out of human trafficking. Maureen Lamaheftawa is a certified peer victim specialist at LifeLink. She joins us now to talk about how this issue impacts families.
It happens with family members, with people you don't even know that are walking down the street. You don't know the situations that they may come across, especially with children and young teens. A lot of the victims that we have worked with come from a lot of vulnerable homes, backgrounds, foster care system. The high rate of Native Americans missing in Native lands I definitely do believe that it is more likely to happen due to the isolation, due to how vulnerable it is out there, and how easy it is to try to get a victim off the reservation. It's not an easy place to live. A lot of people, a lot of young kids, teenagers, young adults are looking for a way out. So and when Native Americans end up missing, there's really no great or 100% statistic that proves how much women and men we have lost throughout the Native American lands. I just feel like there's really no perfect calculation of how many people we've lost, men and women, and also children.
That was Maureen Lamaheftawa, who also commented on Tuesday's newscast about the relationship between trafficking and missing and murdered Indigenous people. In Montana, Drew Landry at Blackfeet Community College has been collecting data about missing persons in Indian country. He sent us this video about the disappearance of Ashley Loring Heavy Runner.
Ashley Loring Heavy Runner disappeared in Bad, Montana this summer. This is not acceptable. In mid-September, a young woman fought off an abduction attempt in Browning near IHS. This is not acceptable. A young man from our community was stabbed to death, and his killer is still at large.
Trafficking, kidnapping, and murder is something we do not have to stand for.
A local resident started a relationship with a 12-year-old girl. The police were notified that the juvenile was with an older man and clearly on drugs. Nothing was done. He was apprehended in Great Falls with the juvenile and pled guilty to sex abuse and giving meth to a minor. This is not acceptable.
You don't take BS from people, and it's time we need to stand on those and say we're going to take back our community. We're going to take back our children. We're going to take back our future.
I first want to apologize to the family for not standing up sooner. I cannot stand and be silent anymore. So please, I ask you, help our Piikani sister, Kimberly Loring, find justice.
All I want is Ashley. I want to help this girl. I want to bring this girl home. But when I actually think that this is my little sister, then I can't do it. But I think of my sisters out there having fun. But I'm here trying to find this girl named Ashley. And that's what helps me every day to do that. Or the public too right now. I would like them to help us, even if it's just talking about her, spreading her name, just always on their minds, and prayers to help find Ashley. It's Ashley Heavy Runner Loring. She's part of our people. She went to school here, the BCC, Browning, went to Hartview. She went everywhere.
Come rain, snow, or sunshine Saturday, we will show those who put our children in harm's way that this is no longer acceptable.
How do we take back our community and assure the survival of our people?
To learn more about this project on the web, we'll post the link at IndianCountryToday.com. Fawn Sharp is the 23rd president of the National Congress of American Indians. She's only the third woman to hold this position in its nearly 80-year history. In addition to serving as the president of NCAI, she's also the president of the Quinault Indian Nation in Dahola, Washington.
Yes, the moment that we take every year in January to reflect on the life of Dr. King, I think we all take pause and really know and understand the significance of not only Dr. King, but the movement and the generation that he inspired. And we think of all those leaders that have gone before us who demonstrated moral and political courage to not only raise our national conscience, but to take positive action to make change. What gives me the most hope is knowing that we have an upcoming generation of young people that are strong. They're being born into a time in a society where the world couldn't be any darker. Sometimes you wonder, could it possibly get any darker or any worse? But they're being born into a time where the challenges are great. The challenges are heavy. The challenges are a culmination of centuries of injustice. But they're also being born into a time where they're learning their languages from my community here at Quinault. A young child could get into a canoe and go out into the ocean and feel the strength and the power of the most beautiful dimension of who we are as Native people, and that is our spiritual dimension. And so what gives me hope is that upcoming generation is being born into these circumstances, are being called at a time, and we have to honor that. And so that gives me a great deal of hope, because I know they're trained to honor our ancestors and those who have gone before us, but they're our connection to the future. And so when I look at our young people, I look at them as very sacred, because they're going to be here to implement and execute much of the work that we might not live to see, but it's our duty and responsibility to raise them and to provide them with opportunities and just to honor them.
Fawn Sharp, NCAI president. And we'll be right back with two tribal chairmen's thoughts on the Biden-Harris administration. Chairman Terry Rambler of the San Carlos Apache Tribe and Chairman Timothy Nuvanyama of the Hopi Tribe talk about the new Biden-Harris administration. I asked them about Deb Haaland's nomination as Interior Secretary.
One thing I've learned as a tribal leader is that when you're sitting across a desk or whatever, talking to other leaders that represent the federal government in managing our resources such as water, land, and air, and other natural resources, is that a lot of times there's a lack of understanding on the other part. So to have somebody like Deb in there, and also to have more people, more tribal members from all tribes in these real critical positions, especially over the stewardship of our natural resources, it's very important to have, because then it becomes more meaningful. Then people are understanding what we're trying to say. And so that's why she's so important, just like today, how important our vice president-elect is to not only people of color, but females across the United States. And that's how powerful they both are. And they're real big motivators for our people.
Yeah, we're extremely encouraged with Congresswoman Haaland, soon to be, and I say this with great pride, our Director of the Interior. So I know from my experience with Congresswoman Haaland that, you know, even though she represents the state of New Mexico in her district, she hasn't shied away from understanding and being able to support tribes from other states. We definitely reached out to her and expressed some of our concerns. And it's important that we have somebody at that level who understands Native tribes and some of the issues that we deal with. I just think there's a huge lack of education at the national level on Native tribes. Although we've been here for time immemorial, I just don't think any administration has taken the time to truly understand and educate themselves on how unique tribal lands and tribes are. So I think she brings a refreshing component to something that we've been looking after for quite some time. And it is a testament to the Biden-Harris administration that they are listening. And to appoint somebody at that level and a Native American woman is extremely encouraging. And it's something that we fully support, and we're excited about engaging with her, just I imagine as many other tribes are, to begin bringing some attention to some of these disparities, long-standing inequities and inequalities for Native country.
That was Terry Rambler, chairman of the San Carlos Apache tribe, and Timothy Nuvanyama, chairman of the Hopi tribe. In 2019, Kim Teehee was named the first tribal delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives. It fulfills a promise made in the 1835 Treaty of the New Echota with the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. In the Obama administration, she was the first ever policy advisor for Native American Affairs on the Domestic Policy Council. She was also the director of government relations for the Cherokee Nation and Senior Vice President of Government Relations for the Cherokee Nation businesses. I asked her what happens next with this historic appointment.
Last March was our last visit to DC. We are still on travel restriction because of COVID, and we had wonderful discussions, no opposition, but COVID struck. And as we know, all of Indian country had to quickly pivot to addressing the great needs of their communities and their citizens. And so we, like everybody else, hustled and started working with Congress, and then obviously the election. So where things stand now is we are presently in revisiting those conversations that we had. And like everybody else, waiting for our new Interior Secretary to be confirmed by the Senate so that the administration can express its views, which we believe will be a supportive view, so that Speaker Pelosi can take the action necessary to seat Cherokee Nation's delegate in fulfillment of that treaty right. You look at other countries like New Zealand, where you have legal documents that are in native language. Not every tribal language has been preserved or has a syllabary. We're fortunate that we do, that we had a newspaper before statehood, before forced removal, that was printed in Cherokee and English. And so we are quite aggressive with our language immersion programs and also with our education of adults too, and also bringing elders into that system. But I would cherish the day that we are able to negotiate our agreements and have them printed out in Cherokee and translated in Cherokee too. We do have, a syllabary, and we do have, keyboards for our Apple computers and for other computers where the keyboard is all in the Cherokee language and the font is in the Cherokee language. We do have that. That piece of it. The other piece of it, though, is to obviously have more people who can speak the language and can read it.
Thank you, Kim Teehee of the Cherokee Nation. This Monday, we honored Martin Luther King. Wednesday, we witnessed a peaceful transfer of presidential power to the Biden-Harris administration. It's been an historic time to reflect and look to the future. As a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, I had the pleasure of participating in a crowdsourced poem curated and assembled by Natasha Trethewey through a project with the American Academy and PBS. Take a look.
Remix for my people, responding to Margaret Walker Alexander's classic poem, For My People. This new poem is a compendium of voices, a collected poem written by Americans all across the country to celebrate and pay homage to our shared and diverse communities, our people.
For my 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 people on the front lines of hospitals, grocery stores, and classrooms. My people driving dusty roads with voter forms.
Praying, singing, witnessing tiny white hospitals with no room for COVID patients, scattered homes with no Wi-Fi, and beautiful fields with monstrous prisons. Holding God and voting close.
For my people.
dancing in Atlanta's sultry streets, chilling in Marion, Ohio, baking cast iron cakes on Ellsworth in Columbus, wrestling hospital tubes to wrangle, healing, baptizing, in cleansing deep south waters, rising to stitch and gather, marching with one voice, building with faith-strong hands.
For my people, rolling along 1, 2, 3, past whispering pines and liberty, interrupted by hay bales and truck farms as the leaves orange, and purple light filters through the clouds and echoes in the redbuds, on the walk down Sloan to class, or the tavern to talk of poets and tomorrow.
And people who hunch over desks, staring at screens, flickering and buzzing like neon. My people, waiting to laugh in a booth or grasp a hand, or for a reason to drive or a destination.
For my people by rivers and lakes who have made cities home, where the Allegheny, Monongahela, and Ohio meet, 3 bodies deep, where the Mississippi courses through silt loam and tamaracks, where the memory of Lake Texcoco waves to Lake Michigan's constant horizon.
For my people who sit at bedsides, a draft coming through the window, reading stories from pages turned years ago. My people who scrub floors on their knees with Ozic in their ears, who kiss boo-boos and slam fingers while dreaming of lifelines in the red-tinted darkness, bright eyes in the lamplight blinking in time, with the future coming down the tracks, echoing hollow in the divots between the ties.
For all of us who find ourselves caught by a simple thing, the sight of a bird, tenderness, bare feet on cool cement, shade and water, and sitting close together.
For my people who found connection in dingy bars, who built families out of nothing, and who loved against the law, dancing until the sun rises.
Fighting the good fight, lending their voices, demanding love, peace, change, justice, joy, and liberation. Their fists high in the sky for my people.
Be they weak or be they strong,
whose feet blister and arms ache from carrying the burdens of ancestors.
For my people, sick and tired of being sick and tired, yet rising day upon day. For the mothers who buried their children, for the fallen, for every hoodie, chokehold, botched arrest, wrong knock, back shot. My people, ready for the revolution.
For my people, shamed for their languages, shut up, beat up, tongues cut up. For my people who survive, who rebuild, who imagine again and again. For my people who rise up and create through the heaviness, who sing the Jibaro songs and toil day in and day out.
For my people, the kids called gringo in one home, but illegal and unwanted in the other.
Who understand 2 cultures, those who knew as soon as they could read what payments and taxes are, who know being bilingual is an asset, but are afraid to be harassed speaking Spanish in a store. My people with a foot in 2 worlds who created their own culture.
For my people who don't fit in, always looking for a place where we belong. For the queers and the weirdos, the femmes and the failures, the artists and the activators, dreaming, organizing, playing, searching, cuddling, waiting, teasing, loving, and choosing a family in whose arms we can finally rest.
For my people whose homeland was lost, who fled with nothing, who crammed into tiny apartments and worked dead-end jobs, who impressed upon their children the value of education.
For my people, cramped in steerage, separated by language, united by poverty and religion, and food and song, lifting us with calloused hands to be doctors, lawyers, leaders, artists, professors, and Americans.
For my Diné people, the Navajo Nation, of my ancestors' resilience, resistance, and radical hope.
For the land we were born to, my people who survived and thrived to inspire. My people diverse in politics and tolerance. My people weary and suspicious of much. yet grateful for this new home.
For my people, blasting jazz and rock and hip hop, classical and soul and funk, using the rhythms to shake the demons of times past, to revel in the joy of the present,
and a blessing for the future.
For my people ever mourning, ever tearful, asking why and what and where to. For my people ever seeking, ever hopeful, knowing not the time their turn will come. Let the spaces made empty fill.
For all of us, every word a sepulcher, every syllable a stone rolled away.
From all of us at Indian Country Today, have a great weekend and stay safe. I'm Mark Trahant.
Just because you know you can, you got to run, you got to run.
Indian Country Today is recorded at the Phoenix Indian School Visitor Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is Indian Country Today.